Good morning and evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Bonnie J. Addario Lung Cancer Living Room and Patient Educational Series. I'm Bonnie, and thank you for joining us. From our living room to yours, we are all living with lung cancer, and our goal is to bring hope into your home. Empowered patients live longer, and our message is simple. We want you to live.
Yet her favorite daughter. This is Bonnie, who I will let introduce herself, but I want to make sure that you tell everybody sort of your story for the new people in the room.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Bonnie, Danielle's mom. I'm either somebody's mom or somebody's grandmother. I'm a lucky 8-year lung cancer survivor of stage 3B. Diem and I have the same stage. Mm-hmm. And she wants to be here in 8 years, and she's going to be.
Sorry.
My story, I'll try to give you the really short version, because it's really a long version, because now it's an 8-year version. But I was misdiagnosed for a long time, as most of you were. The early detection for lung cancer is accidental, right? We all find out accidentally. We have one patient in Georgia who got in a car accident, and they took her to the hospital to see if she had any internal bleeding, and the doctors came out and said, good news, bad news. Good news, no internal bleeding. Bad news, we found a mass on your lung. She's alive and well today and kicking in Atlanta, so I don't know if she's on the phone, but she's a very special young lady. I finally found out that I had lung cancer. I was very lucky in that, as my husband always says, I knew my own body and fought for the right care, because the road I was going down initially just didn't seem right. It just didn't seem right, and I'm not even going to go into what that road looked like, but I finally landed at 2 really great places. One was Sequoia Hospital, which is right up the road here, who has an affiliation with a great thoracic oncologist and surgeon at UCSF. So in partnership with those 2 entities, they blasted me with chemo for a really long time and radiation for a long time. And I had some major surgery, because the tumor I had was wrapped around 2 major arteries. My voice is like this because I only have 1 vocal cord. Part of my esophagus is gone, top left lobe. Side effects of therapy and steroids and what have you gave me vascular necrosis, so I ended up with a completely fractured femur and hip. Ended up with titanium bar from my hip down to my knee. And then after that, when I was doing really well, I ended up with a pulmonary embolism. But the good news is, here I am, and truly a cat. I still have a couple lives left in me. But when I started learning about lung cancer, oh, and by the way, my mother was actually diagnosed with lung cancer after I was. And she did not make the cut, because we didn't catch it early enough at all. But in that process, we had already known that her sister, my aunt, died of lung cancer in her 60s. And then we find out after my mom passed away, my girls were looking through her paperwork and things and found my grandfather's death certificate. He died at San Francisco General in San Francisco. We were always told he died of pneumonia. Well, guess what he had? Lung cancer. So I'm a firm believer in that, in genetics and heredity and all of those things, as well as other reasons for lung cancer. So wanting to do something about lung cancer really badly, because people shouldn't have to work as hard as I had to work to get good care, and as hard as all you have to work to get good care. That's one of the reasons Danielle does what she does, is to make that easier for you to get the right care. And one thing has led to another, and now we have a research foundation as well called Alchemy. So here we are, and we are making a difference, and we are changing lives, and that's a really good thing. And we're down a few people tonight because a lot of our patients came to something that Sequoia Hospital had for me last night. there's this great foundation out there run by a beautiful woman named Nancy Ballard, and it's called Rooms That Rock. And her goal in life is to get every hospital in the United States with a rockin' room, because another thing that's missing is a nice, safe, warm, well-lit, nicely decorated room to have your chemo in, because most of the places where we have all of this treatment are very clinical and gray and ugly. So they put together a room at Sequoia Hospital, and they call it Bonnie's Living Room, and they surprised me with it last night. And a lot of our patients were there, Dan was there, and it was really, really a special thing. So when I was talking to Nancy about 8 months ago, when she came here to tell me about her foundation, because we really want to support that too, because we really believe in it, I told her that the other thing she needs with this room is a bag to give patients when they come for their first visit. And so she put this together, and it's a comfort bag that rocks for chemo. And I got one, and the good news is I don't need it, because I've already had a lot of chemo and stuff and not planning on having any more. So I'm going to give this to somebody who's very special to me tonight, that I know is having a bit of a tough time with her chemo. And she cries a lot when she's here. And so when I give her this, she's probably going to cry again. But this is for Carrie. Because I thought you just needed a hug. Thank you. You're welcome, sweetie. See, that's good. But crying's good. That's not always a bad thing.
And then you didn't even go get her tissue.
Oh, do I need tissue? Okay. No, there's no tissue in there, and I have to be honest too. I looked through it this morning, and there was something I really, really wanted to keep, and that was these slippers. But I didn't. I left them in there, and I said, okay, a gift is a gift.
Yeah. So I think we ended last month. We're going to do the around the room and let everybody do their introductions and updates, and let the new people kind of tell their story and ask questions, and hopefully gain insight from everyone here. Next month, we've got some really exciting speakers lined up between now and April. That I just wanted to run by you all, so it's kind of a get ready, because they're coming. What I do like to do is at least once a quarter have a meeting just like this, so everybody has more time to kind of, so you guys all have more time. So that's why we decided to do this right now. But we've got Shane Normandy, our favorite doctor, coming back. Jeff Oxnard, who is from Dana-Farber. He's a clinician and a researcher. He's brilliant. I had the pleasure of meeting him at ASCO in Chicago this year, and he's really excited about what's going on, and he's going to come out and talk to us. Dr. Gandera, David Gandera from UC Davis, is coming back to talk to us. Harvey Pass, who's a thoracic surgeon from NYU, he's coming back to talk with us.
You're going to love him.
He's a kid.
He's funny, and he's an amazing surgeon. He could do it in his sleep. So he's a good guy, too.
Dr. Ross Camage from University of Colorado, Denver, is coming to talk to us. Another amazing clinician and researcher that's got some really exciting things going on. So those are just a few of some of the really great people we've got coming. So stay tuned. They're all very excited to be here and talk to you all, and also, everybody out there watching, and let everybody know what's happening right now, and some really exciting things are happening.
And so the reason why we started to live stream this was because there's a breast cancer support group on every corner. You can find one everywhere, and that's great. And the survival rate for breast cancer is in the 90th percentile, which is great. But there isn't one for lung cancer everywhere. So we thought, what can we do to get what we do here and share that with other patients around the world that don't have a place like this to come to? So we thought, well, we'll just take a chance and see about live streaming, and it's working. And hopefully, as we start to talk tonight, you'll forget that these cameras are here and what have you, and just remember that we're sharing with other people, and they'll be sharing with us too.
And just so you guys know, we did the you know, the couple of soft launches where it was just, you know, maybe 25 or 30 people signing in to kind of give us some feedback on what was happening. And last month was our first like big push launch, and we have reached with just that one launch about 700 people. So with just that one launch, we were able to get that information to way more than just the 30 or so people that are in this room. And that, as you guys know, that information is so valuable and so important. So thank you guys for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your time here with everybody out there. They've all appreciated it beyond words. So thank you. Who wants to start tonight? Hugh and Laurel, do you guys want to start? There you go.
Is this working all right?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, I get to do the talking, even though Laurel's one with the lung cancer. As you said, nobody finds out about lung cancer until it's fairly far along. By the time that Laurel had hers, it was stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer. I had to learn the language. Luckily, she has the EGFR mutation, and she's been now on for 2 months on Tarceva, which, for people who don't know about it, is a pill that you take once a day, and you don't get any infusion chemotherapy along with it. She had been on infusion chemo 5 or 6 times, which was knocking the hell out of her.
But they didn't test her molecularly initially, did they?
Oh, yes, they did.
Oh, they did?
Immediately.
Okay, but they decided to put her on standard chemo
They
first.
had gotten a partial sample that wasn't good enough to get a really good biopsy on.
Okay.
So the doctor said, I've got enough information to put her on particular chemotherapy agent she chose to use. And when more reports came in, she said, well, let's finish the chemotherapy for half a dozen sessions or so, the infusion chemotherapy. And then if that doesn't, we'll try some follow-on chemotherapy and see if that works with less chemicals in it, less strong. And that didn't work. But she then went on the Tarceva, and that's been working just fine. So, as you say, she was diagnosed about 9 months ago, roughly. Like October? Almost October of last year. And before that, she was completely asymptomatic. She was not tested for lung cancer. She had an MRI for a pain that was in her back, and they did her a hip MRI and sent her off to an oncologist as fast as possible. And we found a nice oncologist who's really very good down at Palo Alto Medical Foundation, Dr. Colochi. And we've been there ever since. We've gotten a second opinion, which agreed completely with her recommendations on how to proceed. In any event, I hope everybody, has good results.
That's great. They've got a, there you go.
Hi, I'm Mary, and in October of 2010, I was diagnosed with non-small cell adenocarcinoma, stage 4, and I had been asking my doctor for at least 3 years, maybe 4, for a CAT scan, because my mother passed away at 63 from lung cancer. She was a smoker, but and my sister at 61. So when I was 61, I started getting a cough, and that's when I started asking for the CAT scan. And but she said they didn't screen for lung cancer with CAT scans. And I'd been seeing this doctor for 20 years, so I trusted her. Anyway, in that October, when I went in for my regular physical, I told her I was really coughing my head off, and I just didn't know what was going on. And she goes, okay, I'll give you a chest x-ray, because I had been getting chest x-rays regularly. When I'd asked for the CAT scan, she gave me chest x-rays. And previously, from that October, in July of 2010, I had pneumonia, and I didn't really feel like it, but I was coughing really bad, and they took x-rays, and the pneumonia, it turned out, was hiding the cancer. And so when I went in for the chest X-ray. The tumor showed up, and they had a CAT scan. And then I did have molecular testing. I had the EGFR, which I didn't really understand what that was till the last month ago when the doctor came down and explained what that was. And the treatment I received first was carboplatin, Alimta, and Avastin, and I had 13 rounds of that. And I still haven't had Tarceva because for the last 8 months I've been okay, and so I haven't been treated with any kind of medicine. And today I had a CAT scan, and I'll find out Thursday whether there's anything there. But I guess I just want to let people know to really, advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself and believe in yourself. If you think something's wrong, just keep going and get the answers from your doctor or a new doctor. And this organization, I've learned so much from Bonnie Addario's foundation. It's such a great resource for people. I'm very grateful to be here. This is my wonderful husband who supported me, because I did get very ill at one time, and he just is the best.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, I think Mary pretty much said it much better than I can. She was coughing like that, and there's a tendency, it'll go away. It'll go away, but she knew it. I mean, she had the instincts about her body, and I don't know, it's making me pay attention to her and to what she says a lot more, and what other people say, because you just can't pass these things off. There's something there. And you want to say, oh, it'll go away, but it didn't go away. So we're all living with that now.
Elizabeth, we're a little more organized this time. I think everybody's got a mic.
DM's behind you too.
Yeah, I'll pass it. My name's Elizabeth Lacassia. I was diagnosed, I believe, in 2007. My memory's a little spotty. But it took a very long time, and as Bonnie had talked about, when I first went to the doctor, when I was still starting to have some problems, I went to my doctor that I've been seeing for many years, and I was very active and very healthy, and he says, you just have allergies, don't worry about it, here's some Nasonex, try that. And tried that, obviously it didn't work. Then finally went to another doctor, and they said, well, maybe you have acid reflux. So, tried that, and it didn't seem to help. And at this point, I was really coughing up a lot of fluid and having to prop myself up at night. And I finally went to a third doctor, and I said, I think there's something wrong, and I really need you to help me work through this and find the answer. And it's probably just allergies and whatever. That would be great. But I really want to find out what's going on because I'm coughing a lot. Well, the doctor did an X-ray, and then they immediately did some investigative tests, and that showed some suspicious cells. And then I ended up at Stanford. A week later, they whisked out my lower left lobe. And the surgeon told me that, oh, you're cured. You don't need an oncologist. You're great. We caught it in time. And by the time they caught it, the tumor was the size of a ping pong ball. And I was diagnosed with a very rare kind of cancer, which unfortunately is occurring more frequently. It's Adenocarcinoma, which is a non-small cell type of carcinoma, but it's called Bronchiol Alveolar carcinoma. And strangely enough, it strikes women more frequently, women in their mid-40s, and non-smokers. Not exclusively, of course, but they're seeing more of a predominance in this profile, as well as Asian women. So I went about 18 months and just kind of tried to live my life, and I just was able to dodge the bullet. And 18 months later, I was re-diagnosed with stage 4 because it had spread throughout my lungs, and I had another wedge resection, and I started on chemotherapy. And I also was on carboplatin, Avastin and Gemzar. And I think the point that I kind of wanted to bring up that's very important to me, and I know I talk about it a lot, but when I was re-diagnosed, what happened was that I had to find an oncologist, and it was a tremendous challenge to find an oncologist that focused on lung, let alone having any experience at all in my type of carcinoma, which is essentially called BAC. But what I wanted to say was that at that time, genetic and molecular testing was in its infancy. And I didn't find out about it until I went to my second opinion oncologist. And he strongly advocated, he said, you know, I went to him because he had had some experience with BAC, and he strongly advocated getting the molecular and genetic testing. And his philosophy is very similar to mine. More information is always better. Even if it isn't definitive, you still know more than you did before. And so I went through and I had the molecular and genetic testing. I am called a wild type. And so the testing at that time, which was very, very early on, did not show that I was EGFR positive. But because he had seen patients with my similar profile, he said, you know what, we're going to throw the dice, and I want you to try going on this clinical trial, which is a combination of Tarceva, which focuses on EGFR, and Alimta. So it's Alimta, Tarceva, and a very special combination. Well, at this point, he now calls me his poster child. I'm on cycle 48. I'm no longer on the Alimta because it started causing some other additional issues. But essentially, I think that it's probably just the toxicity just started building up. But my tumor responded so well that it's called a complete response, that when I have my scans, that they really can't see any significant activity. And so, knock on wood, Tarceva continues to work for a very long period of time, and I continue being the poster child for this clinical trial. And I'm seeing Dr. Gandera up at UC Davis. So, hooray for new targeted therapies.
That's right, that's right, that's right.
Hi, everybody. My name is DM, and I was diagnosed with stage 3B, like Bonnie, adenocarcinoma 2.5 years ago. It caught me and my family totally by surprise. At that time, I was 34 years old. I had a 3-year-old baby as well as an 18-month-old baby. I was working full-time as a dentist and pretty much just living an extremely busy life and just being really happy. I wouldn't say that I was extremely active, but you sort of have to be when you have babies. Anyhow, and sorry, I could be very long-winded at times. I've never smoked, pretty healthy lifestyle, so I developed this cough, and it lasted for maybe 3 or 4 months. And my husband here, Raymond and my best friend, Louisa, they both were telling me to go to the doctor. And it's really hard when you work full-time and you have patients of your own to take care of, then, to take time off for yourself to get something checked, which seemed to me pretty, pretty minor, because I was still, I only had a cough. That was my only symptom. Anyhow, I have to give a shout out to my doctor, who I had only, that was like the first time I had gone to her. And she took down my health history and said, well, you shouldn't be coughing for this long. And so she used to be a pulmonologist herself until she went back to general practice. But anyhow, so she referred me to a pulmonologist. right away. Then I saw the pulmonologist, and after 10 days of antibiotics, and when that didn't clear up, he decided to give me a CT scan, and that's when they found out that I had a mass in my lung. Even at that point, though, because of my young age and because I didn't really have any risk factors to having anything, let alone lung cancer, he decided that it would be in my best interest to have a biopsy, and he sent me over to Stanford. When I went over there, I saw the chief thoracic surgeon, Dr. Schrager, and he was such a nice man. I remember being so scared going into the building because at that time I was thinking that, what's wrong? Why do I have this chronic cough? But it never occurred to me that it could be cancer until I remember going into that building, and it was the Stanford Cancer Center and all of this cancer everywhere. And I mean, it's a beautiful facility, but I think in my mind, that was the first time that I thought, oh my gosh, I might have something really bad. Anyhow, Dr. Schrager saw my scan, and he said to me, do you have time tomorrow? I can do the biopsy tomorrow if you come back. So I was kind of in shock because, of course, I didn't plan on that, and I had a full day scheduled already with my own patients the next day. But I said, okay, if that's what you have, let's go for it. So the next day I came back, and they did the biopsy. When I woke up in the recovery room, Raymond was there, and he had, his eyes were just like red, and you could tell that he was just distraught and had been crying, and he told me that I had lung cancer. So that's sort of my that's how I found out that I have lung cancer. Luckily, they also did genetic testing, and I tested positive for the EGFR mutation. So they put me on Tarceva right away. And so for 2.5 years, I've been on that. And luckily, like Elizabeth, I've also had a complete response. And I just want to say that, life can change at any point in time. And we should really just, we're all so lucky just to be here, to be alive, and have beautiful people who love us and care about us. And thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everyone here. Also, before I stop talking, I want to say I owe so much to my husband, Raymond. He is really the best husband a woman can ask for, and he's been so supportive of me, and he loves me so much, and I love him so much too. Okay, that's it. Honey, do you want to talk?
Do I have anything else to say?
I have to say, this is so cute. Diem came to us really pretty quickly after diagnosis, and early on we couldn't get her to say anything, nothing, So now she's like, let me tell you my whole story, which is great, which is absolutely great.
My name is Esty Caldwell, and my lung cancer was discovered 9 years ago by accident. my daughter was dying of lung cancer at the time. She was in stage 4 because they treated her in Golden, Colorado for colds and flus and allergies when she was coughing. Never gave her an x-ray. So I insisted on an x-ray. My doctor said, you had a physical just 2 weeks ago, and you're in perfect health. She says, what are your symptoms? Why do you want an x-ray? I said, my symptoms are 0, but my daughter is just dying now of lung cancer. So they gave me an x-ray, and they found the spot. And the doctor in radiology asked my doctor, where are the best x-rays? So if it's something that was there for a long time, then that's fine if it hasn't grown. She didn't have any x-rays for 20 years. So I had a biopsy and then, of course, surgery. My top lobe and middle lobe came out, and I had stage 1 Bronchiol. And so I did not need any chemo, they told me, or radiation. They just removed it, and it's been 9 years. So the reason I'm mentioning all this, that if people haven't had an x-ray for 20 years, no matter how healthy they are and how well they feel, they should just have one just to see, or a CT or whatever, just to see 20 years, hey, what shape am I in? And so luckily they found it in time, and so it's 9 years, so there's hope for everybody. 9 years. So I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Esty.
I think we might have to do some mic switching for folks. I think Sheila has it. I don't think the microphone will reach back there, is what. Here we go.
Go ahead,
Nita. I'm Nita, and I've told my story several times here before, so I'm doing well. I'm continuing on Tarceva, although the main tumor stopped reacting well to the Tarceva several months ago. But I've also had radiation to the main tumor, which has been somewhat obliterated. Hard to tell from the pictures. But I'm doing fine. I feel good, and that's what counts. Is there anyone back here who would like to talk?
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm from San Diego. Our daughter was diagnosed same time as DM, and she's doing just as well as DM. Our daughter came over from Palm Springs for the weekend and had terrible back pain. She was 38 and had never smoked, and she was in terrible back pain, no coughing or anything else. And so I took her to, finally I convinced her to let me take her to the emergency room. Oh. No, they got me. Jesus. They got me up there now. Okay. Sorry. Start again? No.
No.
No. That's fine. Anyway, our daughter was diagnosed after severe back pain. I finally took her to the hospital, and unfortunately, she didn't get out for 2 weeks. It turned out her lung was completely collapsed and full of fluid, and eventually the diagnosis was stage 4 lung cancer, non-smoker. My husband and I never smoked. She had no secondary smoke. So we were all floored, just like DM and her family were. But we're doing as great as she is, and I'm happy to be here. This is a wonderful support group. This has all the information anybody needs, and they help you find anything you want. I mean, it's worth it to me to come 500 miles from San Diego to get this information. It's just a great group, great support, and great information. So our daughter had 3 chemos at the start, And then she went on a maintenance chemo of Avastin. And they said it probably would only work for her maybe 3 to 6 months, and then she'd have to start all over again. But she's been on it now for a year and 2 years now, and she's doing fine. She's stable. So it's in her lung lining, so they can't take out a tumor or a part of the lung. So the lung lining is a little more difficult in that sense, but she's doing okay. In fact, this past February, she went back to full-time teaching, and she has a 5-year-old son, single mother. So she's doing great. So thank you all for your support. Bonnie, all of you. It's great.
Linda, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how important a second opinion is?
Yes, it is very important. We are being treated at UCSD, University of California at San Diego. A wonderful oncologist down there and a wonderful department. But up here in this group, they kept saying, what's your backup plan? What's your backup plan? I thought, well, we're lucky to get through our first plan. We don't know what we're doing. And so Bonnie kept saying, what's your backup plan? What's your backup plan? And finally convinced us to go up to Dr. David Gandera up in Sacramento. So we came up, we flew our daughter up here. She met our son, who at that time was living here in San Francisco, and they went up together to meet him, and he was fabulous, and he did back up what she was receiving there, but also gave other options if it came down the road that something wasn't working for her there. He would have other options up here. We also went to City of Hope, wonderful group down there, wonderful doctor there. We got her name from Bonnie and Danielle, and who should we go to at City of Hope, and they told us, and she was great also. So we feel we've got all these people. We do now have our backup people, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to stay in San Diego with the treatment, but if not, we know where we need to go next. So that's wonderful for all of us to have backup plans, no matter what is our situation in life. So anyway, thank you again for all your support. Okay.
My name's Tina, and I was diagnosed, it's been about 1.5 years, and with non-small cell Adenocarcinoma 3B, and at first I was tested right away for the mutant EGFR thing, and I tested positive for that, so I was very thankful for that. So I went on Tarceva immediately, and then my second opinion said, well, I think we can get this with treatment, radiation and chemo, and so I did that over at Stanford, and I finished that up about 1 year ago, and I've been on Tarceva almost 1 year now and have had clean scans since, so things are good. And my daughter came with me tonight. She'll cry if she talks.
Mom's crying. She's been doing good, though.
Hi, I'm Beverly, and I've been coming to the living room for about 1 year now. And I just can't even imagine what my life would be like had I not found this. I was diagnosed in June 2011, and my sister was visiting me, but she's from back east, and she went home, and I was just so blessed that to have the experiences that I've had and meeting the quality of people who I've had, that I felt like this was really coming to a party. I know that was the intention, but but when I think of the doom and gloom in other situations, that was just, and what were my options, and the prognosis was just so lethal. I mean, brutal. So I mean, here I am, and I was just back east for a few weeks. And I was myself again. I never thought I would have that old self to come back. So, of course, right now I haven't had to deal with any scans to be looked at, but I have, without the EGIF mutation that I was never found, I have been on Tarceva now for about 3 or 4 months, and it's maintaining. I'm actually stable. And so I've just been having a heck of a time. I mean, there are actually nights, I think that an hour actually goes by that I don't think about this. Was no waking hour of my life did I not think of this last year. The quality of the people, the resources I have to call people and discuss my Tarsiva rashes and just having those connections has just been, I can't tell you what a blessing it has been. And I'm just this year, if I have nothing else but this year, it's been that rewarding for me. So I do have some scans coming up now in August. Unfortunately, since some of the tumors are on the visual cortex, I am having a lot of problems coming up with the brain and my eyesight and my balance and things like that. But it's manageable. You know, I'm living near UCSF, and their ophthalmologists who are just top-notch in the world. So, you know, I'm reassured by that. And, you know, the longer I have and the more quality of life I can get out of coming here and reaching out, you know, I hope to continue to hope to do so. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vicki. This is my first visit here. I've had a diagnosis unfolding in the last 2 weeks. A year ago, I had a slightly high blood sugar in a blood test, and so I thought, oh, I have to start watching my weight. And so I kind of carefully did that, and I started losing weight. And I thought I was losing weight way too easily, but then I had never cut out all the cookies that I normally ate all the rest of the years, you know, and I thought, well, maybe this is how easy it could have been, you know. And so I was losing weight, and then as spring came along, I started to cough. In January, I went to the doctor, and I said, I think I'm losing weight too fast, and I have a little cough, but I think it's allergies. And out in this area, we had a lot of rain, and we had a heavy allergy season. And I had allergies before that hadn't bothered me for years, but I thought, oh, well, they're back. And so I was taking allergy medication, which dealt with the itching, but not the cough. And so I'm a new Kaiser patient, so I went to Kaiser and I explained it to my doctor, and she did not ignore me in any way. She was very attentive, and she gave me a lung x-ray, which was clean. And then the cough developed. And then I had a really wretched spell of coughing right before I had a scheduled colonoscopy. So I called her and I said, I don't know what to do, because if I cough like that during the colonoscopy, I might really be in trouble, you know? And she said, well, come back on the weekend. She called me back in on a Sunday, and she said, go down and have another x-ray. I put your name in, you know? So I went in, and 45 minutes after that, she called me at home and said that it had there was a mass in my lungs. And since then, the diagnosis has unfolded. I'm stage 4. I went from the x-ray and the mass to having, what came next? The MRI. No, then I had a CAT scan, and it was in my liver. And then I had an MRI on Saturday, and she called me yesterday and said it's in my brain. And Kaiser has really expedited my treatment. Today, which is only the day after the MRI, today I went up and met with the radiologists at Oyster Point, and I'm scheduled for my first radiation tomorrow. I have 4 small lesions and 1 medium lesion, and they're going to do a whole brain radiation, because they think that since there's more than 3, it's likely that there's other cellular activity there, so they want to do the whole brain at least 1 time. They won't do it twice. If that doesn't deal with it after that, they would probably do CyberKnife. Then they expect to put me on chemo next. I've been advocating from the beginning, because I know Bev and I taught at the same school, so I've been in touch with her. So I had heard about Tarsiva before it was relevant to my life, you know, and I had a casual interest in Bev's concerns, you know. And so I advocated to have them test me for that EGFR, and they sent off my biopsy, but they don't know if there's enough tissue or not. So one of the reasons that I'm really glad I'm here tonight is I've already talked to Danielle, because I heard from another person here that there are other molecular genetic markers that can be investigated, and so I'll have that information soon, and I can take it to my oncologist and see whether or not they can test for these other markers also. because they weren't sure that they had enough tissue sample, I said, go back in and take another biopsy. I just want to know, you know. And but they didn't think that was a good move, and so they're thinking about investigating to see if a radiologist will take a biopsy from the liver lesions that are there, because I have 2 liver lesions also, and they might be able to get a sample from that. I haven't heard back from the doctor on whether or not that's going to be possible yet, though. But I would just like to say that I'm really grateful to be here and feel the source of information that's here. And it's definitely one of the more positive things, because the last 2 weeks of my life have just been horrible. And so, I mean, those moments that are really positive, I really savor them. So thank you very much.
I just wish I could speak more without crying, because I really do have a lot I want to say, and I might have to send you all a letter. But can you hear me okay?
That's okay.
It might come to that.
That's okay.
But I was diagnosed in October of this past year with stage 4 non-small cell adenocarcinoma. I'm 42. I've never smoked and have no history of lung issues at all. So this was a surprise all the way around. My pulmonologist even said to me when we were looking early on at what things could be going on for me, she said, I'd be very surprised if this was cancer. The next meeting I had with her, she told me I had cancer. So this was, you know, certainly a surprise and not something I know much about. I've learned so much from this group, and also have gotten such a great sense of confidence moving forward because of coming here and learning so many people's stories and hearing about the genetic mutations and such. I've tested negative to ALK and to the EGFR, but have been in great conversations with my doctors about the next steps and where to go for additional referrals and such. So that was a conversation that I felt awkward having, and it's been great, and it comes from the support I've gotten here from all of you. I am currently on a maintenance chemo of Alimta, and I'm having more intestinal side effects with this than I did with my hardcore chemo. So I'm trying to gauge that some and get to a place where I'm more comfortable. But overall, I'm doing well and okay, and I have another scan coming in August, but my understanding at the moment is will keep me on Alimta for the foreseeable future as long as I'm doing well and they're showing things, you know, to be responsive or at least maintaining. So that's where I am right now, and I really appreciate.
Look at you.
I know I did it, but now I'm like on a roll. Anyway, I thank everybody sincerely. It's really, this is my cousin Amanda and my Uncle Jeff. Okay, now I'm crying.
We know Uncle Jeff. We know Uncle Jeff.
Sally, do you?
Sally,
there's a mic right there. So do you want to grab it and?
First, this is a new member.
Great.
Thank you. I'm very new. What a wonderful group. I don't think I can talk as intelligently as all of you. I have a very hard time with the medical names, but I have what you have. And what are the initials again?
BAC.
That's it? And I'm stage 4, and I was diagnosed May of 2008, and I have been on chemo of some type ever since 2008. And I feel wonderful, actually. I get very sick at times from the chemo, but people always came up to me and said, but you look so good, you know? And at first that really bothered me because I didn't feel that wonderful. But I was also grateful that I looked good, and makeup had a lot to do with it, you know, keeping it up and so on. But it took 3 years for them to diagnose the cancer. I had a wonderful pulmonary doctor, very young, and he wanted to spare me a surgical biopsy. So after 3 bronchoscopies, many x-rays, and CT scans, and I can't have MRIs because I have an implant. So finally, I coughed so much and that was a big, I coughed so much in the beginning that I couldn't believe that they weren't worried about that, because I was. And by the way, I'm still coughing. But, it's just part of the cancer. And I am now on Atlanta, and I have wonderful news about it. My tumors are gone. They didn't shrink. They're gone. And I couldn't believe, and my oncologist, he kept saying, Elaine, they're gone. He was like a little kid. And he was as happy as I was. And so I'm in partial remission, and I'm still stage 4. And I asked him, I said, well, when you're in partial remission, does stage 4 go back to stage 3?
No.
And he said, no, that does not happen. But it was a good question, because I didn't know. And so I'm getting chemo next Monday. I have a new oncologist. I've only been here 4 weeks in Redwood City. I moved here from Carmel, had to leave all my doctors and everyone. I lived there 46 years, and it's very hard to move. And the doctor issue is the hardest. And I have a very nice oncologist and a wonderful Dr. Lim, pulmonary doctor.
She's our poster child. We all have Dr. Lim in some form or fashion,
wonderful.
I think.
She's wonderful. And so I'm just, with the new oncologist, I'm kind of like this, but I want to give him a good try. And I don't know enough about changing doctors Medicare-wise, but I'll find out. And I love this group. In Carmel, we have called Cancer Wellness, and it's at the Monterey Peninsula Hospital, which they call CHOMP. And it was a wonderful source of support for me. I went for 4 years. And I miss them. And Jackie McNamara, my dear, dear friend.
Oh, awesome. We were with her last night.
Yes. Well, she had Sally here, who I had never met, call me and told me she would bring me to this meeting. And when we leave here, I'm going to write down how to get here.
Okay.
I don't know how to get anywhere, and I even have a navigator. So I just have to learn.
Well, we do more than lung cancer. We do directions and all kinds of things. So we'll help.
Anyway, I'm very grateful for the success I've had with my cancer. I try not to get involved with people that will tell me all about their aunt and their uncle and everybody who's had all kinds of things happen to them, and they mean well, but I don't need that. But I'm very grateful that I am as healthy as I am, because I have a whole bunch of things. This poor doctor, he didn't know what to talk about today, between my sciatica and whatever, but we never did talk about lung cancer. Poor man. I think he was glad to see me go. Anyway, as I said, I would really like to come back to this group. You're a lovely group of people, and you remind me of Carmel, and I do miss it, I must tell you. But the people in Redwood City are so nice that I can't complain.
Awesome. That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Awesome.
Which way are we going here?
Go to Sally.
Well, I'd rather tell a story.
Oh, good.
Love that. For all of you on Tarsiva, I was at the gym, and I see this man wearing a T-shirt that says tarsiva.com, and I go up to him, which I never would have had the nerve to do in the past, but I went up to him. I said, I love your shirt. And he said, oh, do you work for Genentech? And I said,
almost,
no, but I know a lot of people on Tarsiva. Well, he helped develop it, and he spent half an hour talking to me about all the wonderful things that are on the horizon for lung cancer. He couldn't have been more gracious and wonderful, and we've emailed each other since then.
Oh, that's great.
And I came home and I said to Larry, I feel like I met God. I mean, I hope nobody thinks I'm sacrilegious, but anyone that has anything to do with something as wonderful as Tarceva, even though I've been lucky, I'm stage 1A and haven't needed any of this thus far, and but it just was a highlight. I can't tell you how excited I was to meet this man. So that's my story.
I can vouch for how excited Sally was because she emailed immediately telling me the story. You're not going to believe who I met, and you must have him come to a living room.
Right.
So that was great.
Sally gets people in here all the time, but we'll make sure you get here, and if you need a ride, we'll pick you up. We'll get you here.
I'm happy to help
Okay,
her.
not from Carmel. We're not. Well, actually, we could have Linda drop into Carmel on her way up from San Diego.
Yeah,
and pick you up.
Elaine, where's your oncologist, Elaine?
My oncologist is
over
in
here.
Sequoia
Kent
Hospital.
Kent Adler?
No, he's at
Dr. Wilson,
Yeah.
Dr. Byron Wilson.
Byron, yeah.
And we're still getting to know each other. I've only been in twice and once for chemo. And a very nice office. They're very nice people, and everybody's very kind. It's just that it's hard to change doctors. And I did. When I first was diagnosed, I had a doctor that didn't talk. Well, that wasn't going to do it for me. I had to have someone who could communicate with me. And his idea of my cancer was not to treat it, to wait and see. But I was afraid. I couldn't do that. So I got a second opinion. I went up to UC San Francisco and got a second opinion, and they didn't agree with that doctor. So I came home, and at our cancer wellness, we had a speaker who was Dr. Roger Schiffman. And so I immediately called Dr. Schiffman and said that I wanted to change to him, and he was very nice about it. And I wrote a nice little thank you note to my former oncologist, thanking him for his care, which was about 3 months. But anyway, it was a smart move because I stayed with Dr. Schiffman. Anyway, thank you all.
Good. Awesome. Well, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Jim Duran. I'm husband of Nita Duran, and very fortunate to this particular visit. Our daughter Laurie is with us, and she's been extremely involved very early on from the time Nita was first diagnosed over 2 years ago. And I'd like for her to tell you a little bit about how she's assisted our family, which has been enormous.
Thank you. For those of you that haven't followed my mother's trajectory, she's been on Tarceva actually for about 2.5 years. And we had about 2 years of nothing, which was really wonderful. We go in and we get clear scans or reasonable scans or nothing that anybody worried about until about last February when it felt like somebody had taken a deck of cards and just, they'd gone everywhere and the tumor was growing again. And we really didn't have a backup plan because we were kind of counting on the doctors for the backup plan. And we went through a period. They were heavily, reasonably pushing radiation because my mother's tumors are largely either inaccessible or I refer to them as microtumors. So they're scattered and diffuse and they can't be treated with something like radiation or surgery easily. But at the moment, having gone from stage 4, she's sort of regressed into a more stage 3 situation where they're diffused through her lungs and not found anywhere else. So our methodology, which is what my dad wants me to speak to, was to sit down and say, we're going to have to boil the ocean. Nobody's really helping us. Our oncologist is pointing us in general directions about clinical trials, but we need to move on and say what's going to happen next, because even though this latest round of radiation has hit my mom's main tumor, which is in the vicinity of her aorta, and we're hopeful that that's been eliminated as a possibility, they still truly believe that these microtumors in her lungs will someday start growing again. But they seem to be under the control of the Tarceva, and the question is really one of how long and what will we do next. So we went to clinicaltrials.gov and we boiled the ocean, all 800 some odd trials, because as you will know, when you get to the point of clinical trials, you have to read every clinical trial and verify whether you're really eligible in some way for it. In my mother's case, she's not really eligible for rebiopsies because there's nothing to biopsy, so any trial involving biopsies doesn't work. She doesn't want to do surgery. Chemo hasn't been very successful. It hasn't been successful at all. It actually made everything feel worse and didn't do anything. So you really have to look through all the trials, and then the question is, where is the best, or where are they really thinking through the sets of clinical trials and not just looking at one clinical trial? Because like our friend from Carmel and our friends from other places, San Diego, the question is, how far are we willing to travel, and how often are we willing to travel for any of those sorts of treatments? So we feel very blessed to have found the foundation here in the last 4 or 5 months, because it really has helped us winnow through some of the haystack as we're trying to kind of get to it. And we've settled in on looking at specific cancer centers and specific locations where there's more work being done in mutation types of trials specifically, and not surgical or chemo trials, which are being done across the country and in many places in California. Is there anything else, Dad, that I should speak to?
Just categorize and group people by what they were doing. Maybe you covered that already.
Yeah, we did take, we made a list of all trials that were applicable to my mother, which I don't even remember how many there were. Then we took them by mutation trials that were applicable to my mother. Then we actually had her cancer retested, because it had been tested for EGFR 2.5 years ago, and it had not been retested since she did do biopsies before they radiated. And I cannot say how much this is really important. Before your surgeon, your oncologist, whoever it is, goes in and eliminates your tumor, get a biopsy of the tumor. And it's not a pleasant experience necessarily, but then you have the material, and that is really, really critical.
Do you have any advice for our new patient here about a biopsy before she starts treatment?
Absolutely. I think she absolutely has to have her mutations tested, and you should have them tested. As Dr. Bavona, if you had a chance to see the video from, it's online now, and I saw it last week, the Dr. Bavona video from a month ago, he really advises that you have every test done to that biopsy, whatever it is. And I absolutely would agree with that completely.
Because after you're treated, the treatment affects the tumors, and that's why a lot of people are in regression and whatever, but your tumor also becomes necrotic. So it's still there, but the cells are dead, but also the markers are dead. So to get a rebiopsy later, it has to have metastasized somewhere else or showed back up again to get a new tumor. So
you'll want a liver biopsy as soon as you can get it, really.
So you don't think I should refuse the radiation tomorrow in order to have another biopsy on my lung?
No, not because that will be confined to your head. So it won't affect the liver.
Great.
No, it's a good question. No, it's a good question. No, it won't affect the liver liver sites.
And we want to be really clear here that we're not being doctors, but by everybody sharing their experiences, you learn more and more and more about what different doctors are doing and what different options there are out there.
When I started out with this whole thing, they were concerned about taking a biopsy of the lung tumor, but the lung was where the whole thing started, was in the lung. And then it had spread to the bones in the pelvis. And so it was recommended immediately. I mean, within 3 days, I had all those CT scans and PET scans and yada, yada, yada. And they said, we want to do a sample from your bone. And that's what they did, first of all, to see what kind of tumor it had where it had come from, if it was lung cancer. And it was lung cancer that had metastasized to the bone. And so that was the first time I had it. But they still kept putting off going in after it because it was so close to the aorta, and they were very worried about the whole thing. So they didn't do it. And finally, before I had this tumor radiated, then Laurie said, and I said, let's go in and see if we can get a sample from this tumor that we hope to eradicate. And we were able to do that.
But then let us follow up with a very important piece of advice. They didn't test for all the mutations. Right. And this has happened to us in another time in our lives with my own child in a hospital when they didn't run the tests. And doctors check a box. That's how they typically run tests. They go, okay, I'll check this box and I'll get some mutations back. We said we want these 8 mutations. And the doctor said, well, we might get 5. And I said, okay, great, we'll take whatever you're getting us, but give us whatever you've got. And they came back and they brought us 3 of which we hadn't asked for, and we're missing 2 or 3 that we'd asked for. I mean, it was scattershot what had been tested for. So it is really important that you get down into the details of your mutation testing and be very specific that you want it either all or how much has been tested, and so that when you go and get another opinion, you know what's been tested for and what has not yet been tested.
Some hospitals test internally, and they might only test for EGFR or ALK. And because they're not prepared to test for the others, there's 9 known biomarkers right now, and more coming down the pipe, very quickly. But it's not easy to get those markers on your panel. So you always want to be tested for as many as possible, and ask questions like, do you test internally or do you go outside to use a lab? And the outside labs are usually the ones that have a full panel, and they test for all of the biomarkers.
Can you explain a little bit more about that? Because I think that's an important point, because that was an issue that I had when I was first starting out, and my doctor did the same sort of thing, my initial oncologist, and they were doing, like you said, to the internal of, oh, well, we'll do this one and that one. And so can you kind of give people a rundown of something like a company like Response Genetic that does a panel at one time versus, the hospitals that send it to this lab and then that lab and then that lab and that lab, and your tumor tissues going around?
I can tell you a couple of things, and that's why it's so important for patients to advocate for themselves. And that's why our group is a real good group to be a vehicle for you to be able to advocate, because you can pick up information here and then go out and fight for yourself. And at times, Danielle will fight like hell for you as well, as will I. I just was speaking last week at the California Health Institute at a meeting in Los Angeles. And the panel I was on the panel with the CEO of Genomic Health, who's right here in Redwood City, and another doctor who is the head of a major cancer center. And the question was, how can we get patients moving rapidly into advanced care? Advanced stage patients getting the best of care possible, available in the United States, or the world for that matter. And the conclusion was that molecular testing and the discovery of biomarkers is happening at rapid speed. But the support groups, i.e. the companies that are testing for these biomarkers, and the insurance companies that are and are not paying for biopsies for these markers, have not followed as quickly. So you can get caught in a quagmire of discovery on your own, but it's all possible. It's all possible by asking the right questions and getting the right work done initially. Because you can ask your oncologist as well, well, who does? Can you refer me out to somebody that is doing diagnostics on all of the panels? And then I can come back here and we can get the chemo done, et cetera. Can you outsource me? Anything's possible, but you have to have the right information in the first place to ask the right questions. It's hard. It prompted us to start a second foundation called Alchemy. It's the Addario Lung Cancer Medical Institute. And one of our first trials is all of the institutions that we're involved with, which is UCSF, UC Davis, USC in Southern California, NYU, Dana-Farber, Vanderbilt, several. We're also involving community hospitals, because 80% of the patients with all cancers are treated in the community environment. But the community environments aren't always set up with the latest and greatest options. So our first trial is to do molecular testing on every patient that passes through. And we use Response Genetics in Southern California, and they are doing the entire panel. But there are others that are doing it as well. And some hospitals just test for the latest and greatest and the newest, which are the EGFR and the ALK fusion and KRAS. But there's more. But again, you have to fight for yourself, and you have to be empowered, you have to be educated, and you have to be informed, so you can go out and fight for yourself. And we're here to handle the first three, to get you all loaded. Don't go in with empty guns, go in with loaded guns, and don't leave until you get what you need.
May I say one more thing, Beverly, before, and this fits into it. It only takes once, and I hope it doesn't happen to you in your treatment, for a doctor to say something like, that really only works with somebody else. That isn't pertinent to your cancer. And in my mother's case, the opening salvo was, Tarceva won't benefit your mother because that really works with Asian women. That's where it works. And my mother was positive, as we know, after we finally tested for it, but that was the story. And I believe sincerely that doctors read journals and they try really hard to summarize everything and figure it all out quickly and slice and dice it as best they can, but they can't. And so they only know what the latest thing they heard was. And so, for example, currently we have a story going around, which is probably statistically mostly true, which is if you have an EGFR mutation, you don't have an ALK mutation. But the truth of the matter is that they're boiling the ocean and they don't know the actual statistics. So even though they found that, so what you're going to hear in your journey is not stories, but what they believe to be the latest science. And you need to be 100% certain that it has to be that this is the anti-EGFR and the EGFR, not the ALK and the EGFR, because it's possible that your cancer will mutate and you will go from being EGFR positive to ABC positive. And so you need to be confident that they're testing for everything and not just part of it.
That's absolutely true, and that's why it's necessary to be re-biopsied as Plan B and Plan C. That the goal here ultimately for all cancers is for all cancers to be chronically managed, and every single one. We do for all of you new people. We have Dr. Gandera did a fabulous session here probably 6-7 months ago, and he talked about just what we're talking about. He talked about personalized medicine and how each of you are very unique, and don't judge yourself in here by listening to what treatment someone else is getting, because your treatment is going to be very unique to you. Your body print is similar to your fingerprints, only you have it. So your mixture of biomarkers and your response to drugs is going to be different than Elizabeth's and anybody else's in the room. What you do learn in here is all of the diversity that's happening with each of these patients. And things are working, but they're different.
Well, and to Lori's point, and Terry, I'm sorry, just real quick, what you were saying, you said it beautifully and perfectly, and I'm so happy that you came tonight, and just for the benefit of everyone to hear the way that you explained it. And in saying that the doctors and the medicine, it's not exact and it's not perfect, and you're absolutely right, they do the best they can, and they're learning new things every day, which piles back onto what you were just saying about the personalized fingerprint, and what your mom's lung cancer looks like is not what Tina's cancer looks like, or what Sally's cancer looked like. And the good news is they're finally going, oh, Nita's cancer isn't what Tina's cancer looks like, and do you know what I mean, so forth. So the doctors are actually finally looking at that and saying things need to change, and the change is happening. So that's it.
But it's happening slowly, and it's trickling down.
Yeah.
It's not happening as quick as the discovery is happening.
Right.
Terry.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. It just seems as though I didn't have sufficient enough tissue to determine if I had the EGFR mutation, and yet I am on Tarceva now for 6 months. And every time I ask my doctor about getting another biopsy, it's always the answer is that it's turned to ash. I mean, it has the tissues have have died. And she says, oh, and I promise you, just as soon as you start regrowing tumor, we can test you again.
Exactly.
Well, but now so there is one tumor growing. Now they say it's too small, near the diaphragm, or this and that. So all of my conversations about that have ashen tissue, and you can't take a biopsy.
And there's the only other option is to go back to your original pathology to see if there's any tissue left over that they could rebiopsy now for a new marker. That would be what I would.
There are a lot of people that's happening to, that they can't get the biopsy.
Pardon me?
Does that happen to a lot of people, that the biopsy isn't available because there aren't?
Or not enough. Because when the biopsy is taken originally, part of it goes to pathology to determine what kind of cancer you have. And then the other part is usually saved, whatever's left is saved for doing biomarker testing and various different things, if there's enough. Because for pathology purposes, especially if you're in a community hospital, you don't need a big piece of tissue. You only need just a little sample. So there's different kinds of biopsies. There's core biopsies, which are a bigger chunk of the tumor.
There's fine needle aspiration.
Fine needle aspiration.
What, Bev, I think, just to kind of help you understand what it is your doctor's telling you, she's not telling you that a biopsy is not an option in your future. What she's telling you right now is that based on what is happening with you, you've either got a, for lack of a better term, old dead tumor tissue that is not viable or usable for the testing to be done.
It's necrotic, no living cells are in there.
Yeah, or the new lesion that they said they did spot, I think you said it was near your diaphragm, is too small, so that they can't get to it. So unfortunately, you're left with waiting until it gets big enough for them to get in there and get a tissue sample out. So don't misunderstand. She's not telling you that that's not an option. She's just telling you right now she can't do it.
It doesn't mean
based
never.
on what's going on with you.
It just means.
Yeah.
Carrie?
Can you quantify what's enough of a sample? Because I don't know much about this, and when I first went in, I got guidance from a couple medical people.
So I've actually, it's interesting that you've asked, because I've actually been now, some of you were here when Dr. Krishna, Ganesh Krishna, came in. He's the interventional pulmonologist from El Camino Hospital, actually with Palo Alto Medical Foundation. And I just recently went down and watched him do another procedure, and I kind of, having never seen how much tissue they actually need, I kind of had this idea in my head, but I wasn't sure. And I was actually surprised by how little it actually is. It's not a lot of tissue. I mean, they pull it and they put it on a slide, and it's tiny, but it has to be good tissue, right? Because a lot of times. Yeah, and a lot of times with your tumors, though, because necrotic tissue can build up in tumors fairly early on, so they can't use that dead tissue to get good results from it. But remind me, remind me where you're being seen.
Oh, and
Valley Med.
So a core biopsy is when they get into the middle of your tumor, which is where the most information is.
And a lot of times, I think, depending upon the location of the tumor, the size of the tumor, it's difficult for them to get in to get the tissue, but not impossible.
The first time they didn't get enough on the bone, and then so we decided to go back in a second time on the bone. And I'm being wheeled into the room going, you're going to get enough tissue, right? I mean, I don't know what enough is. Who am I yelling at?
Yeah.
Well, and that's really a hard question to answer, because the outlying tissue, where the real cancer is in the middle of the tissue.
Closer they can get.
And that's where the real information is, and they don't always know if they're getting in deep enough to get. So it's not a finite answer, and it does happen where they don't get enough. The very first time I was biopsied, they didn't get enough. My tumor was also on my aorta and my subclavian artery, so they were also afraid to go in there. But you also have to say, well, come on, let's go. I mean, what are the options if you don't, so.
And just to go on this really quick, Bob online has a question, and his question is, how long do they save the samples? And the answer to that is, well, it's different depending upon where you have your tissue. Most people have their biopsies done at community or private hospital settings, in which case they're not being saved. They're being tested to, for pathology, hopefully for some genetic or molecular testing, but then they're discarded because most community hospitals do not have the ability to house these tissues. Academic institutions, however, they have freezers and they keep them in the freezer. So.
One of my former kindergarten students is a nurse at which is where I have my, and I asked her about that, and she happened to be going to a meeting the next day and sat next to one of the pathology doctors, and she asked him for me if my tumor would still be there, and he said yes, that they save all their tumors. So I haven't gotten any further than that.
That could be a hospital that has a biorepository and a place to house the tissue. So some more fortunate, community hospitals do have it.
In a community hospital, they save the tissue that's used for pathology. They do save that, but it's not stored the same way it would be stored at a CLIA lab in a major institution.
So is it still something that's viable for testing?
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
Thank you.
Terry.
Hi, my name is Terry, and I'm here as a supportive. My daughter was diagnosed in March of 2010, and she was 32 years old, and she fell in the 2% of the possibility of having lung cancer. So, of course, it took them 6 months to diagnose her because Western medicine, and I'm not knocking it, this is just the way that they do, is they practice on statistics. And so if you fall out of that statistic and are in the 2%, there's a lot of times that you're not going to get diagnosed properly for quite a while. So I want to reiterate what she had said is the fact is the doctors are treating you statistically wise and also on their experience. So I really advocate for getting second opinions, third opinions, fourth opinions. We've gotten many opinions, and each doctor has given us a new information that no other doctor has given us due to the fact of their experience. So, just because, and our doctor actually has gotten to the point where she expects us to come in with all this information and questions and to pound, and especially how quickly the information and research is changing. You really have to stay on top of it. And for the key thing is there's two things for lung cancer patients, or maybe all cancer patients, and one is hope and the other is time. And the hope is to research, to go out there and find out about the new research that's going on, which should give everybody hope because it's amazing how fast it's moving. And then the second thing is you strategically have to choose your treatment for yourself because you know yourself best. And that's by going out and finding out about the different treatments, approaching your doctor, finding out why this wouldn't apply to you, and really dig down deep. And that's how, my daughter's stable. She's been on, she's right now just on Alimta, but she's almost 2.5 years in it. And she has been tested positive for the ROS mutation. That is our plan B. But we also are in the process of finding plan C, plan D. It's one of those things that you need to keep ahead of time because some of this testing and some of the procedures and the red tape that you have to go through to get some of this stuff done takes time. So you can't wait until your cancer starts growing again because you might have to know that answer at that point in time to react quickly. So the testing and all the other research needs to be done before that happens. So you need to be an advocate for yourself, but it's one of those things that by just coming here to this group, I would have to say that probably the best resource that we have been able to tap into has been this foundation. And the education that they bring in, the resources, the support, and it's so nice that they are doing it streaming, because there are so many people out there that could really take advantage and maybe add on to the time of their life. So my daughter's doing very good right now. She does do a lot of alternative supplemental medicine, like acupuncture, her diet, her yoga, her mindset, but she pays a lot of attention to her immune system, which the Western medicine doesn't pay attention to. So that's another piece that you need to concentrate on, and take care of yourself, is trying to do as much for your immune system as possible.
I'm leaving tomorrow for a meeting in Southern California. It's called the Lung Cancer Congress. And it's a CME meeting. And CME means continuing medical education. And it's for, doctors that are learning, and it's the major thought leaders from around the world, because this is an international meeting, that teach these younger doctors that go to these meetings. And our foundation every year sponsors a guest lecturer for this purpose. This year, this is our 5th year that we've done it, for $25,000. We're sending in Ross Camage from the University of Colorado. He's an amazing young investigator. And his topic on Friday is rediscovering lung cancer. And he's talking about everything we talked about tonight, and new potential biomarkers, and the latest and greatest, along with many other people in this 4-day meeting. So we go and learn so we can come back and teach you. It's an amazing, amazing meeting. And they actually have these little PDAs on the tables. I love doing this, because an oncologist will stand up there and he'll give you a case study. He'll say, I've got this 33-year-old stage 4 lung cancer patient, never smoker, doesn't have the EGFR mutation, doesn't have the ALK mutation. And then he gives you 4 possible potential lines of therapy for first-line treatment. And you have to press A, B, C, or D, and I love it when I'm right. It's like, dang, yes, that's what we're supposed to have. But, it's an amazing meeting, and we bring that back here. And in fact, Ross is going to be speaking in here in January. And we'll have lots of other amazing people. We'll have an amazing thoracic surgeon, several oncologists that are doing state-of-the-art oncology. They'll answer any question you have. It's almost like getting a second opinion, when you come here. We believe in empowered and educated patients. We need to be smarter than they are. And that's possible. That's possible. It's a lot of work, though.
Hi there. My name is Orrin Walker. I've been here a few times. I have stage 4 cancer in the lungs. I had stage 4 of the brain as well. The brain has been basically, according to my doctor, has been cleared out. There's no leftover cancer in the brain. The cancer in the lungs is down to like 80%. Eradicated, but it's still not gone. I'm down to maintenance chemo, and I thought it would be easier because it's less
toxic,
less chemo drug, but I'm actually it's a little rougher for me, but I didn't have that much trouble with the regular chemo, so I don't know what's going on there.
What maintenance therapy are you on, Warren?
Pardon me?
What maintenance therapy did you say you were on?
What is it?
Avastin, Alimta?
Alimta?
Alimta. As you can see, I don't have much memory.
That's chemo brain.
But I concur with the people that say that you need to get on your doctor and say, what's going on, and what do you want me to do, what are we doing, what do we need to do, because my My doctor is not, what can I say, progressive. She doesn't look at anything. She's forgetful. Of course, I go to Kaiser, and I've had problems with Kaiser, but I'm not happy with them right now. But I am getting better.
You know, within every institution and every entity, there's other doctors. You can go to other people within Kaiser.
Yes.
And, you know, until you find somebody that you like.
I did go get a second opinion, but the second opinion says, well, maybe you have a year to live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to get up and
Psychic,
punch him.
too.
I wanted to get up and punch him because I don't believe that. But yeah, you have to look out for yourself. You have to watch everything for yourself. Fortunately, I have a good wife, and she looks out for me. My wife Cecilia back here is my chief nurse.
You know, only less than 4% of the population of cancer patients participate in clinical trials. And you all have to remember that Tarceva was a drug one time that was in a clinical trial. Yeah. And crizotinib was a drug one time that was in a clinical trial, as well as Avastin and Alimta and, you know, all of these other drugs. So don't be afraid of clinical trials, especially if they're targeted toward your very unique cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. I was told that I'm not qualified for any of them at this time. I had, blood clots in my lungs. So I had to start taking blood clotting.
Coumadin.
Take a shot every morning.
Oh, that's probably Lovenox.
Pardon me?
Lovenox or Coumadin?
Lovenox.
Lovenox, okay.
Yeah. Everything just gets twisted around, it seems like. Every time I do something, something else happens. But we're doing well.
But look at you. You look fabulous. You're standing there. You're talking.
Live fast.
You have a beautiful wife.
You have a good-looking corpse, right?
That's right.
That's what I'm trying to do. I really do feel good. I feel lucky that I've made it this far. There are times when you get down, but I haven't been down that much, so stay up and just go for it.
And remember, you lose tomorrow reaching back for yesterday.
Yes.
Okay?
That's right.
It's all about today.
Live for today and go for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Who's next?
That's it. I think.
Back to the show.
Yeah, I think we're good with that. So I can't. I think I'm not sure. Oh, Elizabeth left the room. Somebody was talking about Avastin, and Jane. You guys know Jane and Reed. They're vacationing. They're in the mountains, so they couldn't be here. So they say to say hello to everyone. But she's asking about Avastin and time frames, like how long do these drugs work? So the answer is, you know, they have how do you explain it? They have what they do is they have averages, and then they have, you know, some people fall below, some people fall above, right? So you've got people who are on Tarceva for a couple of months, and unfortunately they will progress. And then you've got people who are on Tarceva for, you look at Rebecca, she's been on Tarceva for six years.
We have on our board of directors, we have a fellow, his name is Wells Whitney. Oh. He's been on Iressa for 13 years. Mm-hmm. And I believe Iressa was Eli Lilly, I'm not sure what pharmaceutical that drug came from. But they've taken it off the shelf because they didn't feel that it was effective. But that's the beauty of personalized medicine, because now they're going to be taking some of those drugs off the shelf and put them back into play, because they were taken off the shelf because they didn't really work with a big enough percentage of the population. But this is how we get to the cocktail mentality, where because we're all so unique, you know, Aressa is not going to work for everybody, but it's going to work for that percentage. So we're going to give you Aressa and Avastin and Alimta, and we're going to give no Aressa for you because you have a resistance to that. And that's where this is all going, and it's all so exciting.
Maybe could you talk to the concerns that I know as a patient, the concerns that I know patients have with hearing about these, you know, these average time frames. Well, this drug's only going to work for me.
Here's what I want to leave you with that is really, really exciting. Somebody says, I think Elizabeth, who had to go to Sacramento, she's gone. She said that, you know, she was on Tarceva for X amount of time and then had to get off of it because she became resistant to it. You know, do you remember when you were a kid and they said, oh, you know, my mom didn't want to give me too much penicillin, so I became immune to it. Well, that's what happens. People's immune systems, they can only take so much, and then it just doesn't work anymore because your immune system kicks in and it says, yeah, well, that worked for a while, but it's not going to work again. What we're finding is that, yes, that does happen, but after the body has been off the drug for X amount of time and it's re-established, it works again. There are trials out there that are proving that. So, you know, that's another thing to really be excited about.
There was something in the Chronicle a few days ago about Tarceva, and that they're finding there's a human protein that keeps you from, that it stops working because of this human protein, and that they're starting to work on that.
To put a blocker on the pathway to stop that protein.
Right,
yes,
right.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all really very hopeful and very exciting.
And it's scary because you know, and you've heard from all of your doctors about resistance, and that, you know, regardless of whether you're on a targeted therapy or infusion chemotherapy, that at some point your cancer will become resistant to this drug. Which goes back to what Terry was saying earlier about, you know, be prepared for step B, C, D, and E. Because we know cancer is smart, we know it eventually figures out a way around the therapy that you're on. So through the molecular testing, through talking with your doctor and asking questions, be ready for that time, but also know that that time could be a long time out.
Exactly.
You know, fingers crossed that you're not gonna need to use plan B, C, D, or E for a very long time.
But like anything else, you plan for retirement, you plan for your future, you plan for your kids' college educations. You spend a lifetime of planning, so plan for your cancer as well, you know, so you always really know what your next options are going to be down the road. Don't get yourself left out, you know, in the rain saying, oh my God, you know, all of a sudden I'm resistant to whatever drug I'm on now what's going to happen? Yeah.
Penelope's online too. She said she actually emailed today her kids are not feeling well, so they can't come, and she said mom's doing well and she's on vacation, so to say hello to everyone.
Okay.
And Debbie saying that she just wants to let everyone know here that it's amazing to watch and to hear all the stories, and to see how much hope you give to everyone.
And we're gonna start live streaming this into other institutions' support groups. So another support group in New York will be the whole group will be on with us, and hopefully technology being what it is, maybe we'll have their pictures up on one screen and you on another screen, and 180 people diagnosed every year. Wouldn't it be great if we could get to all 180,000, and where we all have the same story, and we'll storm the silos, and we'll storm the entities out there that don't want us to know, because they're afraid we're so stupid we'll just get confused. We should be good little students of theirs, Yeah, right? Cool.
You're getting a request to talk about the conference you're going to again, the Lung Cancer Congress.
Okay, you can go online and see. You can go online and see the entire agenda. It's the 13th International Lung Cancer Congress. It's in Huntington Beach, California. It starts tomorrow night and it goes through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. the whole agenda, all the doctors that'll be speaking, the topics they'll be speaking on. So you can really, you can really give me a bad time next month and test me on what I learned while I was down there.
And how many questions she got right.
And how many questions I got
right. Playing with the buttons.
No, see, they don't do that because it's interesting. A lot of the information that'll come out in this particular meeting, hasn't been published yet. Because, they like to get into the New England Journal of Medicine and what have you. So, some of the information is proprietary, so it won't be taped.
What's the name of it again?
It's the 13th International Lung Cancer Congress. If you just type in on Google Lung Cancer Congress, it'll pop up like 5th or 6th down.
Are you Googling
and the whole,
already, Ray?
The whole 4-day agenda's on there.
Are you Googling it already?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's doctors coming in from Europe and other countries. And and you'll see on Friday around 11:45 the Addario Lung Cancer Lectureship Award. And Ross Camage is our recipient this year. Last year we had William Powell from Vanderbilt, amazing young man who just wowed him, completely wowed him. He put together this amazing thing called My Genome, and you can actually get on it and track yourself. It's all very cool. Very cool.
I think we are getting close to close. But what I wanted to remind everyone, if you haven't thought about it already, is that our San Francisco run's coming up in September. It's the 16th. Look, Sally knows. I don't know. If Andrea was here, the not favorite daughter, she'd be able to name that date.
Only she with flyers.
Thanks. Thanks.
I know, by the way, I have 9 grandkids, and when I'm with them singularly, I tell them all they're my favorite grandchild. Mm-hmm. So they all know, they all know.
They're like, no, but wait, she told me.
She said me. I was favorite.
Yeah. So I want to remind you all that that's coming up, and I know Brian's come every year, and he's had teams, and he had a tent last year because he was a top fundraiser, and it's a really, really, really great day out at Golden Gate Park. We certainly don't expect anyone to run.
No, because just hang around with me if you don't want to run, and I'll be having fun, and yes, we will have cocktails. But, you ask, what can I do for lung cancer? And sometimes obviously not everybody is going to be as crazy as we are and do all of this. But what you can do is come to San Francisco in Golden Gate Park and make lots of noise.
Lots of noise.
Because we had 4,000 people there last year, and it's probably one of the biggest lung runs in the United States. Mm-hmm. And, just when you think not enough's being done and no one cares, just stand on that band shell and watch them play Jill's song and watch them go through the gates and underneath the bridge. And it's this wave of people that care about lung cancer. So be one of them. Come and join us. Run, walk, waddle. We have a little race for kids, so bring your kids because we have a little something for them, and they all get medallions, because they ran like 30 feet. Come, make some noise with us because we have to make a lot of noise.
Yeah,
we do.
I wanted
all you people listening out there.
Yeah, tell you guys all a quick little story since we're talking about runs. And talk about Casey and the Great Lung Run. I'm not sure how many of you have seen, but most of you know the story about Jill and her battle with lung cancer. And Casey is a friend of hers who is on July 28th, I believe. You can go to thegreatlungrun.com to find out exactly what the date is. But she will be leaving from New York, and she is running to San Francisco.
And she will be putting her toes in the Pacific Ocean in Lung Cancer Month, which is November.
Yeah, it's July 30th.
Yeah.
I just got.
And we'll be tracking her all the way.
Yeah. So it's Kelsey Harrison, the Great Lung Run. She's got this little blog, and we encourage you guys to, if you can, get on and send her a message encouraging her to go out and get it done. She's inspiring and amazing, and I can't run down the street, so I don't know what she's thinking, but
Right.
It's a really, really, really cool thing. And
Nobody's ever done anything like that for lung cancer.
Yeah,
So
her
it's gonna get a
website's
lot of
all
press.
mapped out, so you can see exactly where she's going and how she's running. I think she's planning on averaging about 30 miles a day and being here in November. So.
And we have a campaign going on out there. What can you do with what do you do with your lungs?
Oh, send us your videos.
Yeah, send us your
Your
video.
kids.
If you have just do it on a cell phone, send it to Sheila. And it has to be okay that you might find yourself on a billboard or on a bus or in New York, the underground thing. What is that?
Subway.
I can't remember anything either. Subway. Yes. Right.
14,000 times.
Right.
TV.
Oh yeah, and on TV, yeah.
And on TV, our Maroon 5 PSA has been viewed how many times, Sheila?
14,000 in June.
14,000 times in June. We're getting people calling in here crazily, saying, "Oh my God," from Redwood City, going, "I didn't know you were there."
Well, I had the pleasure
cool.
of being with my mom over the 4th of July holiday. We took a couple days and went up to Tahoe, and we were at the casino because my mom really likes to gamble and doesn't like to go alone, so I go with her.
Yeah, my kids don't like to do any of those things, so they just go with me.
We were sitting there, and we've been going up there since I was a small child, so we know a lot of people up there. We might know a few of the dealers and cocktail waitresses at the casino.
Well, we have our own waitress.
Yeah, and she comes over, and as soon as she saw my mom said, "Sit down," she comes over, she's like, Bonnie, I saw you on TV. I saw you on TV. She was so excited.
She was so excited. She said, "Oh my God, I know somebody on TV." You know, it happens to have to do with lung cancer, but that's okay.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
So that's it. So unless anybody has any questions that they need answered immediately.
And don't let this be the only time we talk once a month. If you need us, we're here.
Oh, we're always here.
24/7. We're extremely responsive, and we'll help you do whatever you need to do. Yeah. Especially, like you newbies.
Yeah.
That first cycle of being diagnosed is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there. And it's like, I have what? I was still working. It's like, what? No, I can't. Not possible. And it doesn't really even settle in right away. It doesn't. You're just kind of going, well, this is crazy. Okay, I'll do what all these crazy people are telling me to do, but I couldn't possibly have cancer. It's hard. Yeah, it takes a while. So we're here for you.
Yeah, we are. Thank you all. Hope to see you next month. Yes. Oh, no.
Oh, well, we could put this video on our website too, but then people would really think we were nuts. Sheila, her poor little dog passed away the other day, last week, and nobody knew why, and she was really very down. So Scott, our CEO, he just walked in the room. Look at that. He's our CEO of BJA. And so I was off again working while they were all having fun doing karaoke in San Francisco. And we have a video of Scott and Sheila doing karaoke at the Mint in San Francisco, and it's very interesting.
They were singing, it's Lionel Richie, right? And it's Endless Love, only they were singing Endless Lungs. So technically we were working. We were creating awareness.
But here's the thing, I would really like Lionel Richie to come and sing it at one of our events. I've rewritten all the words, and Danielle, they're perfect.
Yeah.
Endless Lungs. You ready, honey?
No.
And oh, by the way, it should be Lionel Richie, because these two need to keep their day job, because neither one of them can carry a tune at all.
It was entertaining as hell.
That's why it was so funny. I mean, they were so bad. It was hysterical.
We played it at the end of a meeting we had the other day for the people who weren't, because I happened to videotape it. So. Anyway, it was fun.
Right.
Yeah, I just happened to.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, don't make this once a month the only time you stay in touch with us. If you need us, we're here always. And everybody here is for each other as well.
Yes.
You kind of, we're kind of watching this how people are migrating to each other's, and but you have a support group, 7 by 24 by 365. This isn't just once a month. You people on the phone too.
They've all signed off.
They're off? Okay.
Tired, but
okay.
a couple notes.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I read the notes, didn't I? Anyway, thank you, everybody. We're going to sign off next month. The meeting is on the 21st, I think. Yes, the 21st. We've got Dr. Dormady coming. He's going to do lung cancer A to Z, answer any and all of your questions. We know. I think the last time Shane was like a 3-hour meeting because he wasn't going to let a question go unanswered. So we hope that you can all be here for it.
And Danielle's group is putting together a 360-degree lung cancer guide. It'll be launching probably in August or September.
I am actually going to keep my fingers crossed that by the August 21st meeting, I have a copy for each and every one of you here in the room.
It really is from A to Z, from diagnosis to treatment, and the difference between CyberKnife and Gamma Knife and whole brain radiation and
targeted
Tarceva and molecular testing,
yeah.
and I mean, you name it, it'll be in there. And we're going to actually do an app for your iPhone. It'll be on your iPhone.
Kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. So I'm really, 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 you guys keep your fingers and toes crossed with me that it'll be available by the next
And it'll
meeting.
constantly being updated with new and revised information.
And it's not going to be written like the New England Journal of Medicine. It will be written
really
at a level
dumbed
that
down.
everyone can understand and appreciate.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
But you were on the video. So.